My first thought was, if that window goes, this whole property is gonna go.
How long were you staying there?
I have been staying in Pine Bluff for a little over a year now.
R. Roosevelte Williams III, a native of Opelousas, Louisiana, and 2020 graduate of Philander Smith College, recently celebrated his one-year anniversary being a citizen of Pine Bluff, Arkansas.
If you would have asked me while I was in undergrad, could I see myself moving to Pine Bluff? The answer would have been no.
A 2022 Arkansas Business Honoree for the top 20 in their 20s, he is a professional community and economic developer, the owner of 2 businesses, and is a part of the Pine Bluff Chamber of Commerce's 2026 Leadership Pine Bluff cohort.
I was the administrative assistant my senior year in college. That simple student worker job turned into a full-time job right after I graduated. I would have never thought that I would be writing a proposal to Microsoft at the institution, totaling $300,000, and we got it. But just like that, my life was changed. Had I just bypassed the email, that moment would have been forsaken.
Do you think if you would have did that, do you think you would be the person that you are today? No?
Absolutely not.
Can you share a moment when you realized real estate could be more than just business, that it could be a tool for transformation?
Sure. It happened with my home. I had a dope apartment in Little Rock. It's been a way for me to find even more pride in Pine Bluff, because I've been asked before, you know, you could have found a house in Little Rock. They got old houses in Little Rock. Yes, but not that home. I fell in love with that home. If everyone can come to Pine Bluff and find, quote unquote, that home, the communities that we see can be shaped and transformed in a beautiful way.
What's up, y'all? I'm Zonna. I am a Pine Bluff native, currently attending our HBCU, and this is Rebuilding the Bluff. Today, I am here with our special guest, Mr. R. Roosevelte Williams III. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing great today. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for asking. Can you tell us a little about yourself?
Sure thing, Zona. My name is R. Roosevelte Williams III. I am a native of Opelousas, Louisiana, the spice capital of the world, the exotico capital of the world. And I am a 2020 graduate of Philander Smith University. That's what brought me here to Arkansas. And that's why I remain to this very moment. I did proposal writing and grant management via my business, R's Creative Solutions. Prior to that, I served as the Corporate and Community Outreach Development Officer at Philander Smith University, building upon my degree in political science. I enjoyed community and economic development conversations, enjoy writing down plans and having dialogue with people who want to see a change in the environment around them. Most importantly, I want to be a part of that change via the creative thought process, providing resources and guidance, and ultimately being able to say, I made their efforts a little more tangible and their thoughts closer to reality in ways that they couldn't see before. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions for you. Sure. The first one is, what first drew you to Pine Bluff, and why did you decide to plant roots here?
So what first drew me to Pine Bluff? I took a break from public service for a little over a year, and I began to do real estate investing throughout Central and Southeast Arkansas. And with that came the acquisition of several properties within Jefferson County. When I started to, do my research and looking into the community here, it was like, okay, cool, it's Pine Bluff. I heard it mentioned in passing while I was in undergrad. And then when I was doing work in Little Rock, you'd hear people reference Pine Bluff in certain ways. I'm sure we'll discuss that. And I had a property here. I have a property here. And it was a beautiful old home built in 1909. And it was a duplex. I was going to renovate it and continue to turn it into, just continue to bring it back into a duplex. Well, I would come here when I was bored and take a nap there. I would visit it after the casino sometimes and sleep there. Mind you, had no running water, no electricity. I just enjoyed the vibes of the place. Eventually, I began to fall in love with it. And so much so that while I was working on a duplex in Little Rock, I visited the duplex here in Pine Bluff and became highly alarmed that the dormer window at the top of the property was starting to sink in due to its age and due to water intrusion. It was giving way. So my first thought was, if that window goes, this whole property is going to go, right? So I paused the work on the duplex in Little Rock, and we ended up we ended up removing the dormer window on the property. But with that, of course, came with leveling the foundation, because the floor on the inside was topsy-turvy. So, you fix the floor and then you fix the dormer window. And I'm like, well, I've invested some funds into this place. I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's go ahead and see what else needs to be done. Again, started to spend a little more time there. And I realized, I'm like, okay, what would the thought of me moving here be like? And it was a day with my contractor. Never forget it. We were in there and we were walking around and we were discussing the pros and cons of moving to Pine Bluff, for one, and then two, moving into that property in particular. One of them stated, it needs too much work, X, Y, and Z, but I saw the potential. And it was either I move on one side and not have a proper master bedroom. Again, that one side that didn't have a proper master bedroom, but had a space that was, living room style, and then a room in the middle that would be used as the bedroom. And it had the kitchen and the washroom. So no dining space per se, except if you put it in the kitchen, of course. But my brain was trying to organize it all together, right? And the other side, it had all the rooms in the whole wide world, but no formal kitchen. But my thought was, why give up this huge kitchen on this side for that small kitchen on this side? And then additionally, on the other side, it had a washer and dryer setup inside of one of the bathrooms. So I'm like, either have a proper laundry room or a washer and dryer setup and a shelf inside of one of the bathrooms. I'm like, I live on one side, right out the other side, da-da-da-da. And then finally, it was just like, no, I want the bigger kitchen, but I also want the primary bedroom. Like, I cook. I like cooking. And I'm like, forget it. I want it all. I want the whole thing. He was like, what? I'm like, I want the whole thing. I'll move here. He was like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'll move here. And that began the tangent of increased renovations and making it livable. And that home is why I moved to Pine Bluff.
So how long were you staying there?
I had been staying in Pine Bluff for a little over a year now. My anniversary of becoming a Pine Bluff resident was October the 4th. So a year and 3 months. Could you imagine not having a full laundry room or a full kitchen?
No, I could not.
Exactly.
It would be a hard choice for me to make also.
Exactly. So you're on one side and you're noticing that, oh, wait, they're really enjoying that kitchen. They're really enjoying the laundry room. And then it all comes together like, you know what? No, I don't even want to have that experience, especially when I enjoy cooking. So the home has a beautiful layout, very spacious. Have you ever been inside of a historic home?
Not that I can think.
Because I know you're from Pine Bluff, so I know there are plenty of older homes here. Yeah, so a lot of them still have their charm to this day. The original hardwood floors, the thick molding on the baseboards and around the door frames, the high ceilings, it just things that make them truly classic. And again, all of those things are very easy to fall in love with.
Well, my house that I currently live in, it actually got renovated. Well, the kitchen part. So first we had the brown wooden floors and the brown cabinets. Now we have the white cabinets and the gray floors.
Yeah. So y'all made it more modern.
Yeah.
For sure. My
next question is, how has your HBCU background at Philander Smith influenced the way you approach leadership and community in building Pine Bluff?
During my time at Philander Smith, I was highly involved. I was Mr. Freshman, Student Government Association Vice President, the 2016 White House Initiative on Historical Black Colleges and Universities, HBCUs. I was the 2016 HBCU All-Star representing Philander Smith. The following year, was Student Government President. I joined Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated the fall of 2016 via the Beta Chi chapter. And each of those things played a role in shaping who I am today, whether it is serving with integrity, believing in myself at times when I may feel misunderstood or undervalued, processing things through the shoes of others who are my peers, or even, some of the adults at times, processing situations that you may come across with a very global perspective and respecting the fact that there may be things that you don't know, but that doesn't mean, one, you don't deserve to know. And then two, that if you want to understand those things, then seek the knowledge and approach the conversation in a manner that you're really able to garner more information. Because there's a lot of things that students should know and should be aware of, but they simply aren't asking the right questions, for one. And two, they're taking their access to campus leadership and administration for granted. It taught me that in order to process your future, you must first sit down and learn yourself, be more familiar with your do's and don'ts, be more understanding of your caliber for patience, how you handle pressure, how you handle stress, how you handle moments where you feel like you are on the wrong path. When I first enrolled at Philander Smith, I was a mathematics major. And that was simply because I grew up wanting to be an architect. But Philander didn't have an architecture program. So the tangent of thought drew itself to mathematics as a major following a master's in architecture. Well, 7 weeks as a mathematics major taught me that I did not want to be a mathematics major. That was plain and simple. So you reach a point of reset. For 17 years, you can remember playing with Lego blocks as a kid, and your mother seeing how much you enjoyed building stuff with them, building bridges and all this stuff. She asks you, do you like doing that stuff? I'm like, yeah, I know. Oh, well, that's what an architect does. Okay, cool. I remember drawing, blueprints one day as a kid, just etching stuff out and like, oh, that on TV, like, oh, that's how they look. And then mimicking it and imagining a house. Like, I remember all of that. So to have a moment where you have to leave that lived experience behind because a decision has to be made, it could be a little disorienting. But luckily, and I will say that I was fortunate to have that experience at Philander Smith, particularly because it is in the capital city. It is a campus that has a very high point of exposure. I mean, elected officials respect the institution and pass through there frequently. Community leaders understand its relevance and its importance. And so I was exposed to a lot of those things during my first semester there. And through that exposure, they drew a more sincere interest in government and public service. And major kudos to also the Social Justice Institute at Philander Smith as well. The conversations it brought about, they happened almost immediately when you became a student. You begin to view your job as a student more so as a change agent than just a regular student. That's how my experience at Philander Smith kind of shaped me in who I am as a businessman, as a public servant, and as a man.
How did you manage being so involved on campus? How did you manage your time?
Man, listen, I'll be completely honest with you. I had my qualms about the academia at my HBCU, and it was no direct fault of anyone per se. It was just the timeline that I was there. The timeline I was there, there was a shortage of faculty in my department, and so at times it was just awkward. Like, okay, take this professor again, and it's not uncommon at all institutions for that to occur. So when I would have those moments, it began to draw some disinterest in the academia side of things, unfortunately. The double-edged sword of that was my proclivity to say yes to community programs, to volunteering, my interest in student leadership and developing as a young leader intensified. So you have the topsy-turvy on one end of one moment he's taking his academics extremely seriously, the next he's not. Then you had the ever-increasing workload of public service, or burgeoning public service, and interest in volunteerism and developing as a leader. And they fought each other a lot. I would say I reached a good balance point when I began to understand that my future is what I make it. Still graduated with 3.5. The year where the balance was that was a good year. I did City Year, which is an AmeriCorps program sponsored by the federal government. And it is a full-time service role. So from 7:30 a.m. to, I want to say 5 p.m. in the afternoon, I was at JFR High School as a mathematics tutor, and a student success coach, AKA student mentor. Do that during the day. Then I had online classes, and then classes in the evening when I would get off from City Year. So I remember, and a lot of my classmates vividly remember me showing up to campus in that red coat, going to the caf, eating dinner, and then rushing off to the evening class. Because it's just what it was at that time. It taught me integrity. It taught me hard work, sticking to your vision. And the vision was, and I'll close my response with this. The vision was my freshman year at Philander. A man, I believe it was Mr. Ross, he was inside of the student union atrium, and he had a table set up for City Year. And I had never heard of it But the thought of being able to impact high school students while they were in limbo, not sure what they wanted to do with their lives after high school, that it drew interest for me. And he told me about the program, and I told myself that day, I said, I'm going to do City A before I graduate college. And I did. So 1,700 service hours later and a degree made it happen.
Which year would you say was your easiest and which was the hardest?
Freshman year was definitely the easiest. I was a dweeb display.
Did you automatically decide you were going to be involved on campus and be a leader?
Yeah,
Coming into college?
Coming into college. I was used to, even in high school, being highly aggressive in terms of my interests and things that I wanted to pursue. And my senior year just kind of set the dynamite off in a different level for that. I was drum major for the band the senior year. We fundraised, held community events, and we ended up being able to march in the National Memorial Day Parade. And it felt like such a huge shout out to Opelousas High School. It felt like such a huge formative experience for me to be a part of that process, especially within the role of drum major, that I began to view leadership as a way to grow and to impact people around me, because that's something that stuck with my peers and I for the rest of our lives. So when I enrolled in college, that the discipline that I had, my personality, the way I stand out, it was noticed amongst my peers, and they began to recognize it and accept it and respect it as well. And so the leadership aspect, it wasn't difficult to achieve, and it wasn't difficult to approach while at Philander Smith, especially during the freshman year.
Another question I have is, what role do you believe young professionals like yourself play in reshaping the city's narrative?
Young professionals everywhere. Pine Bluff has pointed this conversation, but everywhere who may watch this need to understand that your voice is a unique weapon, especially in this day and age. There are 2 to 3 generations above us that just sincerely do not understand how to use social media, but they understand the impact of it, for one. And then for 2, we are exposed to plenty of resources when it comes to organizing community programs, templates for being able to petition your city council, documents and online videos that will tell you the things to say when you are in front of a governing board and not sure how to approach a budget or how to approach funding or taxes. All those things are at our fingertips. And so your voice as a young professional, whenever you find yourself, is a weapon when used properly. In terms of Pine Bluff, as a young professional here, I feel it's important to be patient, and not in the sense that you wait to be poked or wait to be pulled up or wait to be told, okay, now you can do this. No, I never believed in that. Never will. Patient in terms of it is a very unique place with a unique history. At any split second, you can meet someone who says the city is on a downward spiral. Or in this split second, you can meet someone that says they are happy with some of the progress that's being made. That's a little confusing to grasp and pick a direction within. So if you are choosing to grow and develop as a leader within Pine Bluff or Jefferson County, I would say be patient with yourself to learn their area, learn about its history. Don't be afraid to review a few board minutes or a few documents that have gotten us into different avenues that we're in right now, the good and the bad. And then additionally, be patient with the community to understand that change happens at different rates at different places. And you can compare Pine Bluff to Detroit. You can compare Pine Bluff to any other similarly sized city. Not to say Pine Bluff is similarly sized with Detroit, but there's a lot of comparisons to be drawn in terms of dilapidated housing, reinvestment, being able to buy cheap properties, things of that nature. You can compare it to cities across the country that have similar populations and similar sizes, and the cookies will not crumble the same. It just simply won't. So being patient to look at the data, run the analysis, whatever way you see fit, however that works best for you. If you ask 20 questions to somebody, that could be your analysis for that day. Or if you look at historical documents on the city, that could be your analysis for that day. But be patient and learn to understand those things. A year in some change, being a resident here, there are still things that I'm processing, still things that are being exposed to this day, to this very day. Even, today I had a session with Leadership Pine Bluff. And even within that, being exposed to things that it's like, never would have thought that, never realized that. I watched a YouTube video about a month and a half ago, and it talked about the very story past of Pine Bluff. And the fact that, for example, Dalloway Road, you know why it's named Dalloway Road?
No, I just
Because at the time it was paved, it cost $1 per mile to pave. Or was it $1 per foot? One of those metrics. But all of that to say, that's why it's called Dalloway Road. And then two, it was also the first paved highway in Arkansas. Being patient to learn things such as that, to understand why people, carry Pine Bluff on their shoulders with pride. And then also to understand what decisions may have been made in the past to its detriment, or to its benefit. And just understand it through your unique lens as a developing leader, as somebody who may be interested in community development or real estate development or economics or healthcare or environmental justice or entrepreneurship. All of those have their place in Pine Bluff, Arkansas.
How can rising leaders become who they want to be in Pine Bluff?
So I'll answer that in two phases. One, let's take Pine Bluff out of the equation. In general, rising leaders at the collegiate level, I would say, need to, one, be involved within their personal and spiritual development. Whether that is spiritual in terms of the religious sense or spiritual in terms of oneness with self and your presence among others and the spaces around you. Once you find that balance and it goes into who you define yourself and make yourself to be as a person, your honesty, integrity, your personality, charm, the way in which you expose those avenues and sides of you, that will help you to figure out who you can be as a leader. Because there are different facets of leadership, and each of those facets requires different exposure points of those tenets. Sometimes you may need to be more direct, more stern. Other times you may need to be more jovial and expressive. Each at their place, but you don't know until you learn yourself again on the personal and spiritual development journey. Along that journey, you will also be exposed to opportunities to grow via leadership development opportunities, conferences, institutes, things of that nature. Even being able to sit in on meetings that are a little above your pay grade, they have their merit, and it definitely has its value. So as you find those, understand who can you be in that space potentially. If you were to pick a chair to sit in and you see the role that they're playing, you see the dynamic that they bring to the conversation and to the plans that are being made, who could you see yourself being in that space? Do you want to be the one that's taking notes and making sure everyone is on track with everything? Do you want to be the individual who is executing plans effectively and efficiently within the community? Do you want to be a strategist that works with other organizations to align goals and reach a different avenue of impact? Do you want to be the person that's in the potentially the CEO seat that can hold others accountable while also being able to represent the organization at different heights? Once you kind of align yourself with the role that you could play and how you want to be developed to potentially serve in that role, the sky's the limit, because you are finding your leadership journey, you're defining it, and you are shaping yourself to be a person who could be a leader anywhere, not just in Pine Bluff. Within the Pine Bluff metric, I would say be involved on campus, because again, Pine Bluff is the heart and soul of a lot of people here in Pine Bluff. The university, they love it. Oh my goodness, they love them some golden lines. And as they should, as they frankly should. So with the history that the institution has, do not be afraid to be involved on campus and then use that campus involvement to branch over into the community as an agent for the university. There are ways you can serve the community without having elected roles. Volunteering with the United Way, showing up at community toy giveaways at Christmas times, wearing the UAPB paraphernalia. You never know how that can change the life of a young child who recognizes that, oh wait, that's on that billboard, or that I see that on my uncle's sweater. They're right in front of me. Wow. All of that has its place in terms of developing yourself as a leader in Pine Bluff. Because the students here and the youth here do need inspiration. The adults here do need a reminder of the work that they have done. It's not going to be in vain. And the foundation that their uncles and aunts laid as community leaders and activists are simply as individuals who showed up to work on time, didn't cause any issues within the city, and took care of their family. all of that is not in vain. And they need a reminder that that matters. So as a person who is a student at the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, I encourage you to not only be involved on campus, but branch off to the community, represent the institution with great pride and dignity, and see avenues that you can inspire youth while also invoking a sense of pride, that a golden line pride within community members here in Pine Bluff.
What's some advice you would give a person who doesn't really know how to start with finding who they are?
We're all young. I'm 28. I've been on this leadership development journey since I was 17. And so it's processing that seasons happen. If you would have asked me while I was in undergrad, could I see myself moving to Pine Bluff? The answer would have been no. And it wasn't, and it's like to Pine Bluff. It was simply, that's just not where my brain was. In undergrad, my goal was to attend the Clinton School of Public Service, get the dual degree for the Juris Doctorate and the Master's of Public Service with the Bowen School of Law. And then trajectories change, realizations change, observations change. I didn't want to be in the courtroom. I wasn't sure that spending 3 years at a law school would have its merit as opposed to being able to, attend institutes and specified trainings to learn areas of the law that were of more interest to me. It could be argued either way, but that was just my train of thought. 3 years later, I would have never thought that I would be writing a proposal to Microsoft at the institution, totaling $300,000. But that's what happened. And I'll turn that into a tenet as well. Be a good steward of the roles that you have. Mm-hmm. Be a good steward of them, because you'll never know ways that they can change your life. I was the administrative assistant my senior year in college to Mr. Charles King in the Office of Institutional Advancement. That simple student worker job turned into a full-time job right after I graduated. I was a COVID graduate. So like many others within that time frame, it kind of shifted our plans a little bit because you're in the middle of a global pandemic and you're not understanding what the heck is coming next. So I took that office job as the administrative assistant and de facto office manager, because I managed that office. Don't play with me. And held it to my chest. This is good. I'm an administrative assistant. I got this. So I don't know what's going on, but I'm an administrative assistant. While processing the emails on a daily basis, began to learn certain things, began to learn about the impact that proposals can have on an institution. And a parallel was drawn for me to the scholarship application process and how that could impact the student's life. And as somebody who did earn many scholarships upon graduating high school, I was like, okay, I know my way around a scholarship app. Let me figure out this bread stuff while they're working on it, because they were approaching federal programming and, they were dropping a lot of funds from the federal level, especially with the COVID dollars that were out there at the time. So when those things began to avail themselves, the grants team on the campus was churning stuff out left and right, and they got a lot of successes, much kudos. And so I wanted to be a part of that. So I began to review documents upon request. I began to make sure I reminded folks, remember we did this, remember we did this, remember we did this. And as a student leader, I knew those things up at the top of my head. Oh yeah, remember we did this, we did that aligns with this, that aligns with this. Oh, look at the strategic plan from X, Y, and Z year that follows within this and that parallels to this. And at times it would actually come in handy because, those are things that can be overlooked at times. But I was looking at it from my vantage point, not from theirs. So my vantage point had its position and its worth. In one of those times of processing the emails, I came across this grant application that was out there from Microsoft, forwarded by Miss Leah Steele, and she forwarded it to Mr. King and asked him to review it as something potentially approach for the institution. They were tied up with the federal dollars that, were already out there, we were steadfastly approaching and already holding meetings about. And at this particular juncture, when I processed that email, they were already in the second phase of some major funding that could leave gaps for other funds that could easily be achieved and approached to not be sought after. So when I began to review the Microsoft grant proposal, I was like, oh, this isn't they're not asking for nothing crazy. They're asking for how would you use these dollars to shape your institution and better develop and train your students, your faculty and staff, and maybe even your community using Microsoft as a sounding board. Okay, I can figure that out. I can come up with an answer for that. I was a student for 5 years, so I can understand the importance of the Microsoft suite of services in technological education. I solicited the input of the VP. They were tied up with the other proposal, but I said, I can't just let this go. I can't listen to this. It's right there. It's right there. So I reached out to another individual on the campus, Mr. Glenn Sargent. Reached out to him, asked for his input and assistance, and that was the first time I tag teamed a grant proposal in my life. And we got it. So just like that, my life was changed. And a few months later, as the funding arrived to the institution and the role that I played in it was solidified, I got my first promotion in life as an adult. Be a good steward and tenant of the roles that you have. Because had I just bypassed the email as something that the VP had ignored, as opposed to recognizing the value that can have for the institution as a whole, that moment would have been forsaken.
Do you think if you would have did that, do you think you would be the person that you are today? No?
Absolutely not. Thank you for asking that. It ignited a fire within me to see, okay, what these grant funds, they seem to really be a catalyst for change. Let's learn more about them. And so after that, I approached the VP and asked him other ways that I could develop within that sphere. And I began to be able to review more documents with the grant team and things of that nature. And ended up, I give them credit, they pay for it. Ended up in a training program with the Lilly School of Philanthropy for their proposal writing and grant management certificate. And I completed it. I learned some good information all the road in that. And it helped me to anchor myself as somebody who could potentially be able to approach proposal writing and grant management and program development as a way to make a means for myself. And eventually, years later, it held me down. It did. I do that now when I'm not citing folks' lawns, asking them why is their car still parked there because it's been parked there for 5 months and the tags expired and that 3 out of 4 of the times are flat. Let's talk about this, okay? That's bandless. When I'm not doing that, when I'm not stressing over a property, because goodness gracious, that has its own stresses, sometimes it scares me. And I guess it means that I'm in true alignment with what I should be doing, because I could just come up with a community program like that and then figure out, okay, this part of this allowance of this does this funding is available here and it's untapped into, this needs to be done, X, Y, and Z. Oh, this happens at this time of year and that'll flow definitely into that. Oh, they interviewed about this, so let's see how I can solicit their interest with this. Oh, and they know about this, so let me call them real quick. All of that happens for me at a breakneck pace sometimes in a beautiful way. And I've learned how to taper it. I've learned how to mitigate that breakneck speed into effective processing of ideas and notions. I do not feel as if I'll be to that point had I not approached that proposal.
Okay, my next question is, can you share a moment when you realized real estate could be more than just business, that it could be a tool for transformation?
Sure. It happened with my home. Like I said, I was not seeking a home. I had a dope apartment in Little Rock. And it wasn't even that it was like fly or fancy or nothing. Didn't have a dishwasher. It was one bathroom. I mean, it was small, but the layout was amazing. Layout was amazing. And it was $700 rent, utilities included. And it was upstairs with a balcony.
That's
Hardwood floors, French doors, had an office space, a living room that I turned into a in-suite. I had the living room set up right here. 4 feet behind it was the bedroom. It was just dope. Had a man cave in an apartment. I did not have any reason to be seeking a home because I wasn't seeking a home. So when I acquired the duplex and made those decisions to, save it when I thought the roof was going to cave in and put forth the thought and the balancing of what would me moving here, even to one side of it, be like. And then finally to make the realization that I wanted the whole thing. I want to make it my home. And then to sit back in awe at the progress that was made on it And a lot of it from my own fingertips, and to know that, hey, I picked that tile. They told me that these 2 tiles wouldn't look good next to each other. And I said, no, do this, then this, and this. That's 3 tiles within one walkway. That's not going to work because I said, it's 3 separate rooms and their colors go together. Watch. And then laid it down. That do look good. I know. Told you it would. To know that that's a part of the story of what my home is. It taught me that even those of us who are not seeking home ownership can find beauty and purpose within this journey. Home ownership comes at different rates, different timelines, different phases in life for everyone. And so this particular journey and phase taught me that if you want to see change in communities, home ownership can be a vehicle for that. Because just as I got that home, made it my own, gave the exterior a complete facelift. It looks night and day from when I purchased it. And to know that my neighbors have pride in my home. And then also to know that the community, folks have stopped by and said that they're in awe on the transformation. Random people on the street give me thumbs up every time they point and look at the fence. Those type of prideful moments is what Pine Bluff deserves. Those type of moments where simply somebody doing their best to make what they have better, it can be applauded and appreciated. And so that comes with community building. That comes with setting the journey for yourself and others. And you learn along the way. Now I know a lot of do's and don'ts for real estate just from dealing with my own property. Now I have knowledge of pitfalls that I can share with yourself about the homeownership process and approaching it as a young adult, and things that you can and cannot do, or things that you can and should not do. And so it's been a way for me to find even more pride in Pine Bluff, because I've been asked before, you could have found a house in Little Rock. They got old houses in Little Rock. Yes, but not that home. I fell in love with that home. So to know that if everyone can come to Pine Bluff and find, quote unquote, that home, the communities that we see can be shaped and transformed in a beautiful way. And that's how homeownership for me and homeownership for others can begin to shape Pine Bluff.
Did you find your love for architecture again while renovating homes in Pine Bluff?
Yeah, I would say I did. It becomes empowering because you're shaping something that is tangible. And it's something that's real, right? It's not saying, this community program should do this. I'm providing input and helping you to align with X, Y, and Z entity. It's literal, a wall and some beams and an outlet, a couple outlets. And when you see how that comes together due to your vision, it can say, oh, okay, I'm with that. So it definitely helped to spark the interest in architecture again for me. It definitely did.
Is there anything about the home that you would change if you could?
If I could. So the home built in 1909, the layout is beautiful. It was truly a hosting home. I mean, when you have 2 sets of pocket doors, you couldn't ask for a true testament to the time frame that it was in. I wish they would have kept the fireplaces. They closed them in at some point in time. The fireplaces got closed. But then there were also some changes that were made that I appreciated. It used to have a wraparound porch, but at some point in time, that wraparound porch was closed in into another bedroom. So that Schaeffler gave me another bedroom. And it would have been an egregiously, disgustingly large porch. Wouldn't have minded it per se, but I appreciate the bedroom aspect more since they closed it in. I also wish that the second floor would have stayed activated. It's technically a 2-story house, but over time they use the second floor less and less. And it apparently is common in the neighborhood where they have like the attic space that actually was like a second floor. I eventually would like to reactivate it as a second floor.
What lessons have you learned from investing in property that you think other aspiring developers in Pine Bluff should know?
I would say don't use the numbers at other places. Use Pine Bluff's numbers in terms of renovation, purchase, and return on investment. I learned that lesson because I moved to mobile homes here. And had I known what I know now, I would not have done that. And not necessarily to the detriment of the community or with any regret. It was just like the numbers don't align with what I could have done with those funds had I gone a different route. If I wanted to just solely acquire 2 mobile homes that were already here and renovate them per se. Also, if you're going to go the land developer route, it wouldn't hurt to have land that may already have the utilities on site. I developed a 1/4 acre of raw land. So I ran new water tap, new sewer tap. All of that adds additional expenses at different rates. If I were to put those numbers in Jacksonville, per se, in some land in the county, those numbers would be perfectly fine. But it's like what I could have done with those funds here, probably could have ended up with 4 or 5 properties as opposed to just 2. So it's lesson learned, no regrets. I mean, goodness gracious, this real estate journey was a complete side quest. Complete and utter side quest. So no regrets, but definitely also not afraid to acknowledge lessons that I've lived and learned and could be passed to others. If you're renovating properties anywhere, invest in motion detectors, and additionally, don't be afraid to board up the windows during the process. I was naive. And that led to a few break-ins during the renovation process. One of them that almost lured me out of real estate investment completely. I was frantic after the break-in, and I went to Lowe's, try to figure out what should I do to secure the property. And had I not run into a gentleman who I knew was a handyman while I was in Lowe's, I likely would have given up on real estate investing that night. But he calmed me down. We got the proper stuff. We secured the property. We came back the next day, put stuff back together, bought new fixtures, the toilet, all that jazz. Invest in motion detectors and then board up the windows during the renovation process. And you may end up with a team that will make some mistakes. A renovation team, that is, if you go the route of hiring a contractor or having a team, you may end up having some mistakes made. That is unfortunately the name of the game. It comes with the process. If you want to stick it through, stick it through. If you want to quit after that, nobody will blame you. It's all a matter of being willing to learn and grow and recognize that the same energy that you transported into a different passion may not align with the next passion. The energy and aggressiveness that I had towards public service and developing as a young leader, that was beautiful for public service. But that same passion is also what caused me to make a few mistakes within real estate investment because it does not necessarily translate to the next sector. I learned that and I accept that.
With someone who is a beginner in real estate, would you suggest them starting small or big?
If they have the interest as a sincere interest, like I said, for me, it was just something like, you know what? I'm taking a step back from public service. Let's see what this is about. That was my angle and train of thought. If someone has a sincere, longer, drawn out interest, I would say don't be afraid to shadow someone. Don't be afraid to ask to walk through a construction site. Don't be afraid to ask to look at the renovating a property, make a few contacts to be exposed to the space first. And also, there's a lot of information out there on TikTok, a lot of information out there on YouTube. Weed through it because some of it can be disoriented. Some of it can tell you to do stuff one way, do stuff the other way. But that's with anything in life. So just figure out what you could pull from it that is of no harm to you and can not necessarily lead to any mistakes, but just an increased and enriched mindset. If you happen to start buying properties or pieces of land, understand the uses for it. Understand that, hey, this land is zoned for commercial, this land is zoned for R3, R4. What can I do with it? How can I leverage it? On the flip side, if you buy a property, okay, this is a single-family home, this property is large enough for me to turn into a duplex. Oh wait, no, this isn't up to code. I have to change this. I can't use this property for this because it's zoned for this. Learning all those things and figuring those out can lead to less headaches and heartaches in the future. So that's some tidbits I would give to a person who is interested in real estate investing at a young age.
My last question is, how do you balance honoring Pine Bluff's legacy with pushing for innovation and new development?
I'll honor Pine Bluff's legacy while pushing for innovation and new development by acknowledging I don't know it all. I don't at all. I'm still figuring out how my presence here can be of impact and be of potentially a legacy building moment for myself and my family within Pine Bluff of Jefferson County. And that's a journey. You're not going to know the answer overnight. And who knows? And the answer may be, I'm not leaving a legacy. Maybe I'm building a life here so the next Roosevelt can exist. Or maybe I'm building a life here for my children to be able to, quote unquote, leave a legacy. But whatever you're doing, know that your journey can and will impact others. And that in and of itself is what I feel one of the major testimonies that Pine Bluff has for itself. The fact that individuals were not afraid to acknowledge, I'm going to do the best I can while I can with what I can. And hope that whoever can and does come after me, they build upon it and make some great things happen. I'm becoming more involved in public service. I'm volunteering in Pine Bluff more. Like I said, I took a year off from public service in the sense that I was approaching it before. And so now that I'm reactivating that side of me and reacclimating to the space, I'll be volunteering more, hoping to serve on more boards and commissions to familiarize myself with the working parts of the city and the county. And also to be unapologetic in saying, I'm a young man with some knowledge. I'm a young man with some experience. And I have a say-so in terms of how the next young man can be developed here. I have a say-so in terms of how the next young woman can be developed here. And then I have a say-so in terms of how individuals with my skill sets and my exposure can positively leverage them for all of Pine Bluff residents.
This is a great time. It was nice meeting you. And could you let us know how people could get in contact with you and find you?
I thank you for this opportunity. And if individuals are interested in connecting with me, can be reached on LinkedIn. That's my full name, R. Roosevelt, spelled traditionally, but with an E at the end. Thanks, Mom. R. Roosevelte Williams III on LinkedIn and Facebook. Instagram, R. Roosevelt, again with the E at the end. And by email at roosevelt.williams@gmail.com. I'm open to conversations on a myriad of topics. And additionally, I am available to sit down, help flesh out ideas, and see how I can be of assistance to plans and endeavors that align with who I am as a person, my core values, and how I can see it bettering the city of Pine Bluff.
Well, we just heard a great interview from Mr. R. Roosevelte Williams III. And one thing we could take away from being a college student or a community member is to be a good steward in your role and get more involved. Again, I'm Zonna, and see you next time on Rebuilding the Bluff.